What's good, weebs? It's me, Weeb here, back with another part 2 for What If Deku Had Rewind. Now, we're going to get into a little recap since it's been a while since last time, but then we'll be getting right into the part. If you guys are excited for this series and want more My Hero Academia videos, make sure to hit the like button, comment down below what your favorite part of the video is, and subscribe to the channel for more, as well as suggest any what ifs you might want me to do or any videos you might want me to do. And yeah, let's get right into the recap. So, last time, Deku had actually figured out that his ability has changed. Deku's quirk Rewind allows him to rewind living things, which he'd use to wind forward and backward to manipulate living objects as tools for him to actually get through the entrance exam. This quirk that he already has been amplified now by the power of All Might, One for All, which he possesses. One for All has more than one capability, if you all knew that. It doesn't just amplify your strength and speed and agility. One for All also amplifies all of your physical traits, which means your quirk is also amplified due to it being a physical part of your body. Deku hadn't accounted for this, which had granted his already powerful quirk a brand new ability, the ability to rewind non-living things as well. He can rewind the space of objects even back to all the way to their previous materials, which means now Deku is able to control everything in the world with Rewind. Well, almost everything. We'll get to that later though. As we see that now Deku has just figured out he has this new ability, let's get back right into where we were last time. Deku's walking away slowly, as his hand is shaking. He turns around realizing what's going on, when suddenly we hear Bakugo. "Deku, what the hell was that?" Bakugo would scream in his raspy voice that he always uses. Deku would turn around as he looks at Bakugo, or Kachan in his mind, and asks what he means. Bakugo would be running at him now just like he did before, and asking what the hell that power was. As he continues rushing towards Deku, Aizawa would quickly get in the way as he uses his scarf to block Deku and protect him. Now, class. No fighting unless it's for sparring or for some sort of class test. We don't permit it on campus, Aizawa would say calmly, as Bakugo makes a sound of annoyance, telling him that he wants to find out more, and he better tell him what's going on later. Deku would turn away with his eyes filled with guilt, as he doesn't want to tell Kachan or lie to him about One for All. As Deku walks away, Uraraka, as well as who would watch his quirk in action, would wonder why he simply hadn't used that ability on the giant robot, which could have just rewinded it all the way back to before it had come out onto the stadium. With Deku now wondering about what his quirk can actually do, he decides he needs to test it, as now the tests are over. Deku would actually scale pretty high, and Mineta would get expelled. With Mineta now gone, half of the My Hero Academia fanbase now sighs in relief, as we then see Deku beginning to go back to his house. Deku's home now after his first day, and he needs to talk to All Might about this. He'd call All Might on his phone and tell All Might what happened. All Might, I already heard. I watched the whole thing. All Might would say is he had been watching the test to see how Izuku would do. Midoriya would then tell All Might that he can now rewind non-living things. All Might would tell him that this ability he should try to keep under wraps is almost a secret weapon, as we had registered you underneath the power to rewind living things, and it would seem very odd for you to just suddenly develop a new power to your already strong quirk. All Might would then tell Deku this, who would agree, and as Deku tells him he's going to start working on it to see what else he can do. Deku's at home when he then decides to try something on a glass. He'd grab a glass from the kitchen, as he tells his mom that he's just grabbing one for a glass of water, as he would then go up to his room and place it down on his desk. As Deku would then focus, you can see the green electricity covering his horn, as he then gently touches the glass. Suddenly, the entire glass would begin to heat up, as it then reverberates before it begins to turn into sand. I see. So I can turn things back into their original forms? Deku would go to sleep as he thinks and ponders about this question about himself now. What else can I do with it, he would think. The next day would come, and as the day would turn to a week, this is when All Might would enter the classroom. All Might? Deku would say, as All Might enters class with laughter, as a smile is on his face. "Hello, students." As for now, I'll be one of your teachers for your hero courses, as this is Class 1A after all of the hero course. Now, our first examination today will be splitting you up into teams, and you can put your costumes on for the first time, as well as letting you all do your first actual test as heroes. All I would say is he then tells them to all get suited up and ready for action. Deku's costume is a slight bit different in this, as it still looks pretty similar to the original. However, on the side he has bigger pockets which he can use, and all have different labels on them, with different color codes, so that way he knows exactly what's in each pocket. Each one has different types of seeds, as well as different items he can use with his rewind quirk in order to grow and use them to attack enemies. Deku would be all prepared now, as he has his full hero costume on. Deku would head outside, as he then meets up with everyone else ready for their exam. As Alma would then tell them to get ready for this test of sorts, they would then begin to be sorted into teams. Team A and Team D would be, well, Deku and Uraraka on the hero team, with Bakugo as well as Ida on the enemy team. As for the villains, as they then are explained to the assignment, there'll be a bomb placed in this building. Of course, the bomb is fake though, so you don't have to worry about it going off or anything like that. Your mission, heroes, is to reclaim the bomb or grab all the enemy villains and capture them. He gives out the capture tape and then tells everyone to get ready as the building, as they have to find which floor the bomb would be placed on. Deku would tell Uraraka he can quite easily get the bomb if he wanted to, but it's up to Uraraka if she wants to or not. Uraraka would nod, asking what Deku is going to do, as Deku would charge one for all throughout his entire body. As he then simply places his hand on the building, he would then think, rewind. His horn begins to glow, as suddenly the concrete that's made the entire building begins to turn back to concrete dust and sand, as it begins to liquefy. What's going on? Bakugo would think, as Deku feels his hand beginning to burn. Damn it, I don't have much longer. As he then suddenly snaps out of it, realizing he can't manipulate such large objects so easily without practicing first. The entire building now looks almost slushified, as everything is basically melted, as the bomb as well as Ida and Baku have now fallen down the floors, with now the building just being mush. What did you do? Deku would laugh as he says this isn't going to be too big of a problem, as he then tells Bakugo and Ida that they should let him have the bomb. They tell him no way in hell, as Baku would then rush towards Deku. Deku would easily pop out a simple palm tree seed as he then throws it towards Bakugo, it rewinding itself forward as it then suddenly bursts into a full-size tree, hitting Bakugo into the air. Uraraka, go get the bomb. I'll handle these two. As Deku would suddenly throw out several dozen sunflower seeds around Ida, the sunflowers begin to grow, wrapping around his legs as he can't escape their vines. As Bakugo then would begin to leap down towards Deku, he would then try to use his gauntlet on him. Deku would simply touch the gauntlet, as he then reverses the gauntlet's intake of sweat, reversing all the sweat back into Bakugo's body, as Bakugo now has retained hydration, as his sweat's all gone. What just happened? Bakugo would think, as his entire tank is now empty again. You might want to make sure that you have your gas filled next time, Deku would say, as he then punches Bakugo, sending him flying backwards, as he uses a bit of one for all. He would then use Rewind in his hand extremely fast to fix it, while Ida breaks out of the sunflowers trying to get after Uraraka. Uraraka grabs the bomb and the hero team wins. Just as All Might's about to criticize Deku for destroying the building, Deku would tell him to give him a second, as he then uses One for All again, with him placing his hand on the mushed building and rewinding it back to its full size. Well, I hope that's better, All Might. Deku would then have a major applause from the entire rest of the hero course, as he had simply just fixed an entire building. This quirk was revolutionary. He could fix entire cities if they were destroyed by villains now. That quirk is extremely versatile for a hero, Yaoyorozu would be thinking, as she notices how Deku easily, almost with no effort, fixed it. In fact, it was fixed so well it looked like it had never been damaged in the first place. Bakugo and Ida would both easily be mad, as they say it's not fair for them to just take out the entire building like that, and that's a misuse of this entire training session. Deku would say that there was no rule placed like this, and that it was under his right to do so, as he sticks his tongue out. This would become Bakugo to become furious and enraged, as he then tells Deku he's going to win the next one easily, as Deku would walk away with Uraraka and him getting extremely high points. With the next few teams going, as Todoroki pulled the same stunt, using his ice to completely freeze the entire building, just as Deku would use his quirk to manipulate the entire building, making it look like Todoroki stole his idea. Deku would congratulate Todoroki on that, saying that was a good move, as Todoroki would look coldly at him, thinking that Deku is the biggest threat in the entire class to him. As Deku would now be known as an extremely powerful hero, just based off how his quirk works, All Might would congratulate Deku after the class was over, with Bakugo heading out of school and him being more enraged as he had lost to Deku, which, as in this version, he isn't as down as he was in the original, just because Deku wasn't quirkless. He knows that Deku's strong, but he doesn't like losing still. So he's still enraged and tells All Might that he's going to become the most powerful and the #1 hero, and Deku can never beat him. As Deku would then watch as Bakugo walks away, Deku would then get ready for his homework for the rest of his classes. Several days would go by, leading to weeks, when they'd be told that now the next examination would be taking place. The entire class would be told by Aizawa that they'd be heading over to the USJ for a physical test that they'd be taking to practice rescues. As Uraraka and several other the girls in class are excited about this, Deku would be ready for pretty much anything. However, none of them were expecting what was going to be coming that day, as Deku and Class 1A would be heading out to the USJ. Deku and the rest of Class 1A would then be heading out as they finally arrive. As they are greeted by 13, who has welcomed them, the Black Hole hero who's known famously for her disaster rescue teams. She would then tell everyone about the USJ, the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, as well as what they'll be doing today. This is all disrupted, though, however, when a black portal begins to emerge from behind. What's happening? Deku would be thinking, as everyone in Class 1A is beginning to feel fear. All Might hadn't come with that day, as even he was still resting after he had done so much hero work earlier that morning. So they had no one else besides Aizawa and 13. Deku and the rest of the students would try to escape, as Aizawa tells them to stay there, with him rushing down to battle all the villains that have just emerged. As now you see Kurogiri beginning to use his attacks, he would suddenly create those black portals around all of the Class 1A students, beginning to split them up. 13 would try to battle, as she's then harmed very much by the portal ability of Kurogiri, with now Deku watching in horror as he sees 13 and Aizawa in danger. He would tell everyone to get behind him as he tells them that he'll protect them all, with Bakugo as well as Todoroki and Kirishima not being behind that. As Deku throws down some seeds, he create humongous trees, using redwood seeds, which are incredibly rare and hard to get. As he uses 5 of them, he would completely surround them as he grows the wood out to hundreds of years in advance, creating almost an impenetrable wall of wood surrounding the entire class. Everyone stay behind. As long as they can't get in here, then we should be safe, as it would take some of an immensely powerful fire quirk to even burn these down. This is one of my most powerful in my arsenal, he would think, as he didn't really want to show it off so early. This wall defense would then have some struggles by Kurogiri, as he tries to break through, as Deku had wound it so tightly around the class. This is when he would use his portal to rip one of the trees apart, as Deku's shocked, seeing that he could actually do that. As Kurogiri then absorbs the entire class, Deku would do one last thing as he absorbs and rewinds all the seeds, picking them back up quickly as he then sucked into the portal. This is when he sees Froppy and himself being there, as Mineta's not here in this scenario because he was, well, not accepted into UA. So it's just Froppy and Deku. Deku would tell Froppy to not worry about it, and that they can do this easily together. He would ask her what she thinks on the situation, as they are in a water-based area. She would ask him if he has any ideas, and she said that she could probably jump out of here pretty easily and escape them, as she's very fast in the water, but she doesn't know about Deku. Deku would say he'll be fine, as he quickly decides he can make a bridge. He would throw down about 17 seeds of normal pine trees, as he then creates a humongous bridge of trees across the entire lake, from the boat stretched to the shore. That's just unfair, the villains in the water would be thinking, as Deku and Froppy would simply walk across the high bridge and make it safely to shore. Oh, and just for good measure, he would say, as he then disables all of the trees, pulling the seeds back to him using his inanimate object rewind ability. He would then shove his hand into the water, as he then tells Froppy to get back from the water. He would use rewind on the water, as suddenly he would then be able to, now he can use inanimate objects, he would rewind the water back to a state of being frozen, back in its time when it had been in some sort of cold environment, as he rewinds it thousands of years to the point where it had been. All of the water would suddenly sublimate as it turns into ice, covering all the villains and freezing them in their place. Deku would punch his hand out of the ice and then pulls it up, telling it no biggie. Froppy would be severely impressed, saying, "How do you know you could do that?" "I didn't. I just figured I'd try it since everything now I can touch can be rewinded. So, water has 3 different forms. If I could do that, then they'd be stuck. As Deku would say that, they'd walk away from the frozen lake, as they would then see Nomu fighting Aizawa. Even though Aizawa is canceling out Nomu's quirks, this is when we would see that Aizawa is about to be defeated, as his head is grabbed by the head Nomu. Froppy, stay back, Deku would say, as his eyes are full of fear. Aizawa-sensei, he would rush forward as the Nomu turns, seeing Deku. Deku would quickly speed up as he rushes towards the Nomu. I just need to touch it, he would think, as he then touches the Nomu for 1 second. It's over. As Nomu is touched by Deku, Nomu would show almost no reaction, as we see Shigaraki laughing, saying nothing you can do is going to work. This was designed to kill All Might. Suddenly, we see him stop as he's looking in horror, with Aizawa being surprised as well. Deku would use Living Rewind, as he uses his base quirk on the Nomu. I'll just simply turn it back to before it had so much power. As he rewinds Nomu all the way back to a human baby. What the? This thing was human? Deku would think as he sees a small child there, along with some other strange mechanical devices that have now been pulled out of its body, as other experimental objects must have been used on this poor child, or adult even. He would then tell Aizawa there's no need to worry now, as this is when Shigaraki would be surprised, asking what that was. This is when we see Deku turn towards Shigaraki and say he might take his quirk too. As Shigaraki's shocked, he tells Kurogiri they have to escape, as there's someone here who has this similar abilities to All for One. Deku would ask what that means, as All Might hasn't told him about All for One yet. With Shigaraki making a quick escape, this is when we realize that All Might hadn't even arrived yet. A few minutes later, Ida would come back with Aizawa with all the heroes, as well as All Might having arrived. With Aizawa thanking Deku for saving him, Deku would ask if everyone had any injuries, as he uses Rewind on them to rewind all their injuries back. With Deku basically saving the entire USJ incident and not having any trouble with the Nomu, as well as getting all of the things that had been used on this guy in order to create him into a Nomu, this is probably the best scenario for the USJ that could have happened. As Deku would then tell All Might everything, as well as him mentioning some guy called All for One, All Might would be worried, as he tells Deku that All for One is someone who has the ability to steal quirks. To steal quirks, he would think, as All Might would nod, saying that All for One is the enemy of One for All. He, in fact, is the main reason why our quirk was created. Deku would listen intently, as All Might would explain everything to him. The USJ incident would become less and less famous than it was in the original, as no one, especially not Aizawa, didn't get hurt, as they had no injuries either, with no one having any injuries of any kind, meaning that Deku basically saved the day. With now the USJ incident being over, everyone in UA is worried, although the newscasters don't know about how big of a deal it was when the League of Villains had intervened in this test. Everyone in UA knows that something big is about to happen, and something will be happening very soon. However, that can wait until the sports festival. Anyway, that's it. So, if you guys want to see the next part for What If Deku Had Rewind, make sure to hit the like button, comment down below what you thought, and subscribe to the channel for more. I will see all of you guys later. Goodbye.